So I was sitting around, hanging out, chilling, watching, to me, one of the greatest shows of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and my mind started wandering its way back to women's basketball, as it does. It happens all the time. It's nothing against Avatar, but I posed the question to myself. With their on-court ability, who is the Avatar in women's basketball? And before we get into the actual women's basketball side of this, let me provide a little bit of background to people who might not be familiar with the show. The world of Avatar consists of benders, which means that you have the ability to wield one of the 4 elements: water, earth, air, and fire. But the Avatar is special. The Avatar is reincarnated through the generation. When one Avatar dies, another one spawns with the memories of the past Avatar. But the key thing that we're talking about here is that they have the ability to master all 4 elements. They're the only person in the universe that is able to do this. So, what player has all 4 elements to their game? Obviously, before we dive into this is completely subjective. I'm just having fun. Let's let our imaginations run a little bit. Now walk with me. To me, there are master benders that have honed their craft in this one form of bending to elite, otherworldly levels. And we see this in the show. We see this in women's basketball as well. And I think to give some examples of this, right? To me, Paige Bueckers, not the Avatar. But her air bending, that is what she is. The way that she's able just to float when she hits that mid-range to the free throw line extended area and just floats for a shot is otherworldly. And then even if you get into like the defense, like the way she comes over for the blocks, like that gives air bending to me. Lauren Betts is what is like the perfect designation of an earthbender. A player that is grounded, is rooted in the ground. You ain't moving Lauren Betts, but the skill is still there. That just personifies what an earthbender should be in basketball form. I feel like another player that fits that personification aspect is Texas's Roy Harmon as a firebender. Like, the energy that she brings is matched to me by only one player in the nation. We're about to talk about her. But the energy, it just radiates off of her. It impacts her teammate. It spreads like fire. That's a firebender to me. And for water, it's Juju. Incredibly fluid movements. It's almost like you wouldn't expect it to be as dangerous as it can be, but some of those dangerous ways of bending is through water bending in the Avatar universe. And like sometimes Juju is a little nonchalant, but she's dangerous as it gets. And look, the players I just named are 4 of the best players in the country. Like it doesn't get much better than Paige Bueckers and Juju Watkins, right? But I do think that one player across the nation exemplifies being the Avatar on the court and pulling from what I deem as the definition of on-court examples of these 4 elements. There's only one player to me that truly does that and genuinely pulls from all 4. And to me, that's Notre Dame's Hannah Hidalgo. But I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna show my work. Let's go through each element and explain why Hannah Hidalgo is women's basketball Avatar.
Just push and pull the water like this. The key is getting the wrist movement right.
I wanted to start off with, to me, what was the most recent example of an element. And to me, that pretty quickly became water. And specifically, Hannah Hidalgo's performance against UConn this second time around. We know what she did in that first game, but especially this second game. And I'll tell you the exact moment that my mind went to. We just heard Katara, who is one of the greatest waterbenders of all time, talking about it's all in the wrist. It's that simple. It's all in the wrist. It's all in the wrist. And where did my mind go when I heard that? I went to Hannah Hidalgo's shot. Because against UConn, that shot looked as maybe the best it's looked so far in her career. And my favorite part about it, and the moment that really clicked with me where I was like, oh, this is water, is that every time after Hannah Hidalgo, after the shot started falling, where did she look? At her wrist. Every time. She was just in pure amazement at what her hands, what her wrists were doing. And it's not just the shot as well. It's the fluid movement as she gets to the rim. And we're going to touch a little bit more on that later for a different element. But the movement and the finishing. And to me, so much of Hannah Hidalgo's game is about chaos and creating chaos. But the moments where she's going up for that shot, where she's in the air for that layup, that is a calm wave hitting in the midst of a storm that is playing against Hannah Hidalgo and having Hannah Hidalgo on the court. It's smooth, And look, we know that the shot is wet. To me, nothing echoes that teaching more with Hannah Hidalgo that we just heard from Katara than the shot. And especially what we saw in that UConn game where she was looking down at her hands. Because look, it's all on the wrist.
The key to earthbending is your stance. You've got to be steady and strong. Rock is a stubborn element. If you're going to move it, you've got to be like a rock yourself.
So we just heard from Toph, right? The stance. Have you seen Hannah Hidalgo's defensive stance? That it looks like she just took Toph's teachings, just straight up took it and just applied it to her defense. Even at 5'6", Hannah Hidalgo, when she gets down in her stance, when she's in the half-court defense, you're not moving her. You're not moving her, and it's she's so planted, but at the same time, ready to pounce at any moment. And it's such a unique blend on the defensive end of both power and speed. And again, have you seen the stance? Like, if you literally just take what Toph just said, look at Toph in the clip. She looks like Hannah Hidalgo in her defensive stance. Like, it's so unique to me in a way. We know about defensive stance. Everyone has a defensive stance, but how low Hannah Hidalgo gets and the ability to just be ready to pounce is different. That's not normal. that is not normal. And another thing that, and this might be stretching it a little bit, but we're having fun here, okay? Another thing that's very interesting to me from the earthbending perspective is that Toph specifically, we for those that don't know the show, Toph is blind and uses the sound waves and the vibrations off the ground to see. That is how she sees. And to me, I immediately connected that with the way that Hannah Hidalgo knows where the opposing player is going before they're going there, and normally beats them to that spot, whether it's using the movement of the hips or their eyes, whatever it might be. The way that Hannah Hidalgo's hands are so incredibly active, or she's ready to jump on the ground because of how low she is, like she's just ready to explode at any moment on the defensive end. To me, that's earth all around. That is specifically what I think of when I think about earthbending. It's being strong, it's being planted. It's like I mentioned with Lauren Betts, it's being planted and skilled. And on the defensive end, Hannah Hidalgo exemplifies that massively. She's a defensive rock, and a talent on the perimeter is not usually one you can anchor your defense around, but goodness gracious, Hannah Hidalgo is. And a lot of that has to do with the defensive stance and how she reads the opposing player, which to me screams earthbending in basketball form.
The key is to be like the leaf. Flow with the movement of the gates.
So air and earth are opposites, but while yes, Hannah does plant herself in the ground on defense, we see the speed that she possesses and the way that she just flies and can be just like the leaf going through the gates, which we just heard from Tenzin. The ability to get to the rim is incredibly impressive, and it feels like she's moving around the gates a lot of the times, whether it's just avoiding contact, whether it's just making it getting herself to a place where she can even get a look at the rim and to finish in this way. Like it's ridiculous, frankly. Like the way that she can contort her body, the speed that she has, it just screams the airbending to me. It's what it does. And being able to see her in person and see this unnatural speed is it was ridiculous. Like, I've watched a lot of basketball in person. I've been very lucky to travel and watch different teams and whatnot, but Hannah Hidalgo is truly unique, is truly one-on-one with the athleticism, right? And like in the show, if you're unfamiliar, we see Aang like kind of going around on his little ball, like his ball of air, and just riding it around and going at super fast speeds. If you told me Hannah Hidalgo had an ability like that, I just wouldn't be shocked. There's very few players that truly possess now you see me, now you don't, blink and you'll miss it type of speed. Hannah Hidalgo is one of those players. And to me, it's not just the speed that she operates with, but it's when she needs to avoid contact. She often is initiating contact, but when she needs to avoid contact, she can. And to me, that's screaming airbender, and the speed is truly one of one.
The breath becomes energy in the body. The energy extends past your limbs and becomes fire.
The avatars do rotate from nation to nation, right? And to me, I wanted to say fire for last, because if Hannah Hidalgo was the avatar, she'd be from the Fire Nation. I don't think that this is a very surprising thing, and I've said this before, I'll keep saying it. I have seen Hannah Hidalgo in person, and to this day, the only person when it comes to energy that compares to Hannah Hidalgo is Russell Westbrook. That is it. And Roy Harmon is honestly up there as well. But like they are in a category of their own in the way that they use their own individual fire, the fire inside them. But it's more than that, because I would argue that the most important part about this fire that they have is that it spreads. I actually had the chance to ask Hannah this when I was at the game. I got to see her in person at when they played USC and beat USC. Here's what she had to say about this, because I think it's interesting hearing it directly from her. Tyler DeLuca, No Cap Space. Hannah, I'm interested for you. This entire game, after every whistle, everything, you're clapping, you're yelling, you're energized the entire time. It felt like you're on 100% stamina the entire game. I'm interested for you, like, is there like a level of pride with that, I guess, to kind of be the tone setter in a way for this team? Because it felt like everyone, whether it be on the defensive or offensive end, fed off the energy that you were bringing in this game. I'm just interested, is that something you're kind of mindful of, I guess, or is that just Hannah Hidalgo playing basketball?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for my team, I'm that energy. Like, I bring that energy, and I know my team feeds off of that. I know they feed off of when I'm diving on the floor, I'm getting stops. Like, you know, when I'm running in transition, like, I know my team feeds off of that. I know they need that. And then everyone else raises their level of intensity. I know Sonny talks about when I'm picking up in, you know, full court, it makes it so much easier for her. You know, I want to make the lives of my teammates a lot easier. So, you know, I just always kind of have that pride because I know that's what they need from me.
Possibly the biggest example that we've seen of Hannah spreading this fire was in the game against Texas, right? They're down to the wire. They are at home. Players are going down. They have a small rotation, which Notre Dame has had forever now, it feels like, but she's just smiling and she's clapping. And then you look at her teammates and they go from nervous to clapping to smiling. What Hannah Hidalgo is able to do when it comes to just purely spreading her fire is so incredibly important. And she's not just fiery, she's forged in the fires. Like I said, the Texas, this is down at the wire. With UConn, these are the biggest moments that she is going to experience as a basketball. Like these is as high as it gets. And this dates back to last year as well as a freshman, when she's going to stores and doing what she did against UConn. In the biggest moments, Hannah Hidalgo not only shows up, she excels. She is forged in the fires. So whether it be a yell, whether it be diving on the ground for a loose ball, whether it be clapping for her teammates, the fire continues to spread. And when you look at the skill set that she has, it's normal to have superstar players, right? You have glue players. It's very rare to have a superstar player with a glue player mentality. And that is what Hannah Hidalgo has. And to me, more than anything, that's what makes her so incredibly special. Look, like I said earlier, this is not a diss to any other players. There are certainly players that have mastered their style of bending. Paige, Juju, Lauren, Rory, and there's more examples across the nation, but it's hard to learn your opposite at times, right? But the thing with Hannah is that even her opposites are strengths. And she just fits the billing like no other player to me right now when it comes to pulling what I deem the definition of each of these elements across the nation of women's basketball. There is no one that is doing it better than Hannah Hidalgo. Nobody fits that better. And I do say that currently, though, because the incredible thing about the Avatar and the incredible thing about women's basketball is that the generations coming up are taking notes. And I promise you, there's going to be more Hannah Hidalgos on the way. And when that time comes, if this is the energy that's spreading, goodness, we're going to have a whole lot of fun in women's basketball.